Well, no Premier League action this week because of internationals, but a couple of burning questions that we're still going to try and answer. James, you were at Chelsea Liverpool before the international break. A lot of talk still around Mo Salah and his impact. You were obviously at that Chelsea game. Is it just a slow start, do you think, for Salah, or has Arne Slot got a bigger problem?
Well, I think it's both, because I think that there were moments in the second half where he's got the ball on his left foot in the box or just outside the box, and you're thinking, I mean, last season you're just thinking goal. Yeah. But you think, well, at least this is high danger. And he was putting the ball in the stands and just shanking it off time. You're just thinking, well, that's not a system problem. That's not a managerial problem. That's a Mo Salah problem. But then obviously there's a bigger issue with Liverpool in just the team dynamic and the fact that, obviously Florian Wirtz didn't start that game. They tried to sort of restore a bit more of last season's balance into the midfield. Szoboszlai went back into that position. Conor Bradley came in at right back. He got taken off at half time. It didn't work. They didn't look, as dynamic and as cohesive as they had done when they won the league. So all of that is going to affect the positions that Mo Salah gets into. But as I say, he still got into a couple of them. Yeah. I mean, within, I think, 30 seconds of the start of the second half, Wirtz produced that magical, it might have even been his first touch, magical, what should have been an assist for Salah. And he skews it off his right foot and goes wide. And you're just thinking, well, if you're on a slot, you're just thinking, well, he's letting the side down a bit there. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing anyone else can do there. We've got him in that position. He's then got to execute it. So yeah, there is a definite concern.
Wayne Rooney absolutely hammered him on he was working as a pundit for the Chelsea Liverpool game, and he basically said, look, he's just not working hard enough. He's not doing anything for Conor Bradley. He's just basically stood there with his hands on his hips, going forward. And he's never worked that hard, but when he doesn't work that hard defensively, he has to contribute more from an attacking sense. I checked out his goals record in the last few months this morning. So since the start of February, he's got 14 goals for Liverpool, 6 are penalties. So that's basically 8 from open play. It's not Mo Salah level, that. And I think he's definitely, he's had a dip. I mean, he's 33 now, he's signed his new contract in the summer. I just think that African nations coming up in December, World Cup at the end of the year, Egypt qualified. I think Mo Salah's thinking, this for me is about my international season this year. It's the World Cup and the African nations. And, who can blame him? He's basically done everything he wants to do with Liverpool. But I suppose who can blame him? Yes, you can, because he signed a big contract at Liverpool. But, I do wonder whether signing the contracts in the summer, I think Liverpool got to the situation, as we know, they had 3 players out of contract. They had Trent, they had Virgil van Dijk, and they had Mo Salah. They knew that Alexander-Arnold was going. They just knew that. They couldn't afford to lose a second one from that 3. I just don't think they could do it. So they gave them both new contracts. And I think over that period of their new contracts, we'll see them both, disappear from the scene. I think Salah will go first.
Just on his age, obviously, Mark and I have watched a lot of Man United, and I remember Robin van Persie was obviously sensational when he joined from Arsenal. Yeah. He had a great season. It seemed to me, and obviously if Robin was here, I imagine he would tell you something different. It seemed to me that age caught up with him very, very quickly. I'm not suggesting it was overnight, but he went from being this kind of elite, really sharp Premier League striker till, I don't know, a year later, possibly looking off the pace. Now, it happens to everyone. Age catches up with everyone, not least the 3 of us. Do you think there is a sense maybe with Mo Salah that Mark has just mentioned, it is 33, you cannot carry on at the same level again and again and again, that eventually it does catch up with you? And sometimes with players, it can be quite quick.
It can be quite quick. I think it's too soon to suggest that age has caught up with Mo Salah. I'm just looking at some of the stats we've got down here, and I'm not a massive proponent of XG, but 24-25 season after 7 games, Liverpool's XG, or Mo Salah's XG was 4.1. This year it's 1.96. Now, Mo Salah, is not responsible for that dip. That is going to be a consequence of the chances that the team are creating for him and the positions that they're getting him into. Now, obviously, he is an element of that, but it's pretty clear to see, if we take a step back from just talking about Salah, that Liverpool have been nowhere near where I think anybody expected them to be at the moment. They're trying to integrate new players, multiple new players. Obviously, Alexander Isak's the main sort of forward in that system. Florian Wirtz has changed the dynamic of the midfield, and they've lost a lot of key players in those attacking positions already. So those sort of, individual connections and understandings that Mo Salah would have with so many players is not there. And to sort of suggest that, he's just going to pick that up and do it on his own, well, maybe what we're asking a 33-year-old to do is to be the match winner at the very highest level in the Premier League year after year after year. He's not going to be able to do that forever because nobody can.
Yeah.
But I think it's too soon to suggest he can't do it this season.
I think he's lost his energy. What I mean is not his energy, but the team's energy, because Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz provided a lot of Mo Salah's energy. They basically did the running for him, and he was able to capitalise on that.
Well, it's funny that he was involved in a little social media spat, wasn't he, at one stage during the season where someone had tweeted about the upgrades, about Wirtz and Isak, what an upgrade on Núñez and Diaz, and he kind of leapt to their defence on social media and kind of said, well, hang on a minute. Like, why don't we give them the props and wait and see kind of thing? Maybe it is a question of him having those kind of relationships and people who provided the energy, and that's missing now for him.
And the other one is Diogo Jota. I mean, I don't know how close they were, but you don't know in the fullness of time. He might talk about how much that's affected him. It may well have affected his ability on the pitch.
I think I can't help but affect everyone in that dressing room. I mean, Virgil van Dijk, I think, has touched on that a little bit, hasn't he, in one of his post-match interviews after one of these 3 defeats, and kind of said, like, unless you're in our dressing room, you don't understand the impact that's had. And I don't think you can ever tell, can you, unless you're in there?
No, I mean, just on Salah specifically, I was speaking at an ex-Liverpool player about him recently, and he was basically saying that, he said the thing with Salah is, he's always done this, he said, just watch him, he said, what he'll do is he'll basically conserve his energy for the first 70 minutes, he'll drift to the left, he'll drift to the right, and he'll just wait, and then these last 20 minutes is when he scores his goals. So Salah's clever, isn't he? He does do that a lot. He'll basically wait until his opposite numbers kind of worn himself out a little bit, and his concentration starts to go, and that's when he'll pounce. And I mean, I was at the Bournemouth game start of the season when he scored like 94th minute, so he does have that in him. I think one thing I would say as well, they've got Man United at the weekend. No team has scored or conceded more Salah goals than Man United, 16 all total. So he's got his.
I think that's the worst possible game that Liverpool could have in the circumstances. United at home, a team that they should be beating.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't think it's probably the best. It's Man United at Anfield. They haven't come close to winning this since 2016. And Salah might think that's his chance to lift his season off again, that he always does well against Man United. I mean, I don't know who's going to be marking him at the weekend, but whoever he's not going to be very good. So this could be Salah's...
A sweeping generalisation.
You tell me a good Man United fullback that can take on Mo Salah. Anyway, but the point is, maybe he sees that as his launch pad. But I do think overall, I think he's looking at this season as Egypt rather than Liverpool.
Well, next we're going to talk about Arsenal. One of your teams, James. Is the handbrake on at the moment, or is it off?
Well, I find this quite ironic, this conversation, because of course that phrase was coined by Arsene Wenger. It was a sort of Wengerism about how he'd talk about his players not being able to play with a sort of fluidity and freedom because he felt they were inhibited. It wasn't anything that sort of he was doing. You know, he was the ultimate sort of artist in the way he wanted his teams to play. So the fact that there's now another Arsenal manager in 2025 facing this criticism feels like it's kind of come full circle a little bit. But I do think Mikel Arteta's got a bit of a case to answer. They are too conservative. They are reliant on set pieces too much. And I think the comparison that's been made between Mikel Arteta and Jose Mourinho is valid, but I think there's also a comparison to be made between Arteta and Gareth Southgate. In that,
don't kill him. Don't kill him.
In that the squad that he inherited was a mess. The culture was terrible. The place was low on confidence, and they were a mile away from where they need to be. They've now got to the brink of winning the Premier League. They've been second for 3 years in a row, and this squad this year has got more attacking, exciting options in it than he's ever had before. And there is no guarantee that he can manage that. And what he's got to do is flip that switch from worrying about what goes the other way, worrying about history, worrying about all the things that he was right to worry about at the time, which is exactly what Gareth Southgate did. But then where Gareth just fell short was in saying we now have the ability, the confidence and the freedom of expression to go and get what we think we deserve, not let's not lose it. They're all carrying the Ming vase across,
I'll tell you what,
across the floor.
I thought about this the week, because I think Arsenal are really good this season. And I saw them at Newcastle and they got that really dramatic late win. And then maybe that could unlock it, or maybe that's the game that he realises that sometimes you've got to go over broke, because you're right, I think his natural instinct is to be cautious. And I think over the years, you look at all the managers that have won things, they've all been gamblers, you know, Ferguson, Wenger, Mourinho, Klopp, Guardiola, that when push comes to shove the last 10 minutes, they'll all go for broke. Arteta's instinct is to be a bit more cautious. And I think it's interesting, he has said in the past that one of his big kind of mentors is David Moyes. He played for him at Everton for quite a long time. And David Moyes great manager in the Premier League era, but he's very cautious. First off, I mean, I saw at United that his natural instinct was to be cautious rather than go for broke. Arteta has to get over that because I don't think as a manager you can win the very big honours, and Southgate might be the same. Unless you're prepared to risk something, you're not going to win something because the top managers, look at all the ones that win the Champions League, they're all risk takers.
The only thing I would say about that in Arteta's defence is that you don't win the Premier League in September and October, but you can lose it. And if you gamble to a point where you're dropping points, say it had gone the other way. Say in Newcastle, you're drawing 1 each, and you throw everyone forward, Newcastle break, and you lose 2-1. No one's going to go, I love that for you, Mikel. That's fantastic.
But I think they've been dead unlucky because whenever I've seen them without Martin Odegaard, they're not the same team. And he gets injured all the time. But when he came on at Newcastle, he changed the game because when he plays, they've got that creativity through the middle of the pitch, which they don't have when he's not there. He's the one player they can't replace because everything else goes out wide. And I think with him in the team, they are a better team and a different team. But again, it all gets down to the fact that Arteta has to be more of a gambler.
When I interviewed Gareth Southgate before the Euro 2024, I put that exact point to him, Robert, you know, about people wanting to see all this attacking football, but if it goes wrong, you know the criticisms are coming your way.
Parsley against Greece is a case in point.
Yeah, and I remember he said, it seems some people want fantasy football, but very few teams play that way. And he made the point about Didier Deschamps, and then he sort of said, he was getting a lot of criticism for the way that France were playing, and he just said, I've seen it where coaches get killed if you get done on a transition, you get accused of being naive, and that of course would be the criticism levelled against Mikel Arteta. But I think your squad has to dictate your approach, and Arteta in previous seasons, including last season, has had to adapt and sort of modify their approach and be a bit more pragmatic. They've got everything. They've got everything they need to win the league. I'm not entirely convinced by Victor Gyökeres, but he's good enough. They've got everything that they need. So it's on them to go and grasp the net or go and seize the moment. And he's just falling. Well, I say he's falling fractionally short of it. I think there have been encouraging signs. You mentioned the Newcastle situation and the way that they made the attacking changes. He's right. He dropped Odegaard into a deeper position. They went for it and they got their rewards. Yes, it came from a set piece. But I do think that there are signs that he's starting to flick that switch, but he's got to keep doing it over the next 7 months.